Okay, so I'm on Huckleberry. We're doing a road ride, and we're going to practice our version of a 50-foot trail ride today. And what that means basically is when you ride your horse from home or even from camp at a trail, a lot of times they want to go home. You ever notice that they walk really slow going away from home and they're a lot faster going back home? And that's just a normal thing for a horse because you take the saddle off, you feed them, life is good. So what we do is we allow them to say, "Hey, I want to go home," and we turn around and we go home and we go home and we exercise a little bit. Depending on your horse and what his abilities are, is what you can do. So some horses you go home and practice a lot of backing and circles and side passing. Some horses are maybe a little worked up and they need to canter some. You can always take them home and lunge them and do the same thing. But the main thing is let them go home immediately, as soon as possible. Go back to work, then ride him back to the road or the trail. Go again till he gets a little bit worried or wanting to go back to the barn, and turn around and go back and do it again. So, the first day you may not make it very far at all, and the horse wants to turn around, and that's kind of a good thing because that gives you the opportunity to show him it's okay, we can go home, and for him to decide that he doesn't want to do it anymore. So see how he's kind of got his head turned here. He might be looking at the neighbors, um, but I'm going to actually take my rein and put it around here so it's really loose and allow him to make a mistake. So obviously I trust him pretty well. I know he's pretty comfortable, but I mean I can just grab that rein as soon as I need to, so it's not really a big deal to let him loose. And if he's really the first day for this, I might even let him eat some grass, and I for sure will when we get further down the road, but make it a positive thing. And kind of build on that. What you'll notice is, like, see how now he's kind of, well, no, he's not. But they'll get to where they kind of cross the trail and weave back and forth across the trail. That's basically a sign of not wanting to go forward. And so when you see that, they're probably going to turn around given the opportunity. And that's where letting that rein down will give it to them. And on some horses, like on Huckleberry, he's done this game before. So, other horses. He may not turn around on his own, but as soon as I feel like he's kind of getting some kind of something, either a thought of going back, I want to go see the other horses, because you don't have the reins. But that's just curiosity. Don't mind curiosity at all. But if he got real nervous, I'd wait for him to kind of get unnervous, like if something kind of spooked him, and then I'd turn him around and go home and do some exercise at home. If he got to walking like barely moving forward, then maybe that'd be my sign that, okay, we need to go ahead and turn around. And he's like, yeah, not going to happen. So we do this because where he's going is she's going to mainly ride him from our house in a circle around the road, kind of like a square blocks. So this is going to be a common thing. And so we do the hard work. So if he ever gets a little bit barn sour, then she can do a few minutes of it, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I remember this one." So we just, like I said, you start with as far as you can get, whether that's 25 feet, 50 feet. As soon as you feel something, turn around, come home, and work. And you do need to work, make them a little bit uncomfortable. You don't have to run them to death and all that, but you do need to do something that's more demanding than what you normally do on the trail or even in the arena. For instance, you'll back, and instead of letting them rest after they back, now you'll back again, or now you'll side pass, and just stuff like that. But it doesn't have to be hard, hard, hard. It just has to be, well, this is picking on you. That'd be a good way to say it. You're picking on them a little bit more, like, come on, do this. Okay, now let's do this. Now let's do this. And where it's like, oh, gosh, leave me alone, lady. And so here's going to eat some grass, and I'm going to let that because we're far enough away from home that we could do that. He about fell down in the hole. Okay, so see, he's kind of looking back instead of eating grass. I don't think my reins are too long. Let me make sure he can eat. But he is licking his lips. And so after they eat the grass here, I'm going to squeeze both legs but not give him any direction with my reins. And if he turns around, instead of getting upset about it, I'm going to say, awesome opportunity. And we just exaggerate everything because, we figure if we kind of exaggerate it, then if they regress a little bit, then that's not going to be so bad. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 legs on them. And he thought about eating grass. We're not going to go in that hole there, though, hon. Let's back up for a second. There's a ditch there, and I don't really want him to fall in that by accident. Okay. Alright, so now he's actually headed towards home, so let's see what he does. He's like, yeah, not so much. So I'll probably have to show this on a horse that has not done this before, just to show you. But in this case, there. So that time I asked him again with no rein pressure, and he says, yeah, let's go ahead and go home. And that's okay. You know, now he's not walking fast. In fact, he's actually walking a little bit slow, like, oh, crap. Because we did this yesterday. And he never was bad. But, you know, why wait for him to get bad before you work on this? We do it on our trails at home, and now we're doing it on the road at home, specifically because this owner is going to ride him on the road and come back home every day. So that's just going to be a maintenance thing, because whatever you do with the horse is what they learn. And so if you come back and you take the saddle off and you grain them, you can't blame them for wanting to come back. But sometimes people don't notice that before it becomes a problem, and they get all anxious, and then you go pulling 2 reins and they get really crazy, and you know, it gets dangerous, especially on the blacktop here. So we're just going to let him. This is cool. He's not walking too fast. If he wanted to walk real fast, that'd be great. That'd be fine. I'm not going to tell him no. If he wanted to trot and I was comfortable with it, then I would trot. But I might trot and like make him make rein contact and give and kind of collect up and stuff like that, not just let him free rein and bolt on me or something like that, you know. So I might make it say, oh, we're going to trot, but we're going to learn a little bit at the same time. But if you're not comfortable with that, it's okay to say just walk and keep asking him to walk. And remember, it's not a symptom of him being anxious out here as much as he wants to be home, which is adding to it. And he's getting fired up. And so he's got destination anxiety, and he's going to get there as fast as he can. So now he's hesitating like, oh gosh, we're going home. So again, this is I should have showed you day 2 or day 1. This is day 2. And he's like, not so much. So notice again, I don't even have the reins, because what do I want him to do? I want him to make mistakes. So we're going into the neighbor's yard, and so we'll wait for him to get in the neighbor's yard, and then I'll just do some exercise, because this is not home either, you know. So we're just going to turn a couple circles, turn a couple circles. Now we're going to go the other way, no rest in between. You know, normally in training, there'd be lots of reward for the try. And this, I'm, you know, just like constantly asking for something to where he's like, crap, you know. Now we'll let the reins loose again. Now we have options. Left is home, right is going further on the trail. Nice job, buddy. Good choice, good choice. And the first day, oh my gosh, it was so boring. And so, you know, you don't go anywhere, so you feel kind of like an idiot. But it's got to be done if you really want your horse to be like happy with what you're asking for. And let's go on a trail ride and make this the easy thing. Let's go back home and work. So again, if you don't feel great cantering around and whatever, or maybe your horse is just totally, you know, silly by the time you get there, have your lunge line ready, jump off, and immediately, no, go get you a drink, no, get him a drink, none of this stuff. We go and we immediately go, and then I would canter on the lunge line until he's got a little bit of sweat, or, you know, not just simple, easy. Oh, there we go. But until he got a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit tired of it, and then I jump back on immediately and go. So there he did turn around on his own, and he said, wait a minute, I think I'd rather go back home. So this is perfect. I was kind of leaning to the side a little bit. I could have caused it. Doesn't matter. He just said, well, wait a minute. What if we go back home? And so the perfect thing to happen is he goes back home, and I get to work him, because if he never goes back home, then I never got to really show him what the right answer was, and for him to decide what the right answer was. Which way are you going, Huckleberry? Because, oh gosh, I don't know. I'm so torn. I really don't want to go work hard today, but I really don't want to work hard in the arena either. So choices, baby, choices. It's like, I know, I'd rather just go eat in the stall. Me too, bub. Oh, nice choice. So no hands on the reins, just 2 legs means go forward. He had a choice. And now he's going to turn some circles. And granted, you can have a hold of reins if you want to for this, but I'm exaggerating because I want him to make mistakes. Now he's going in a circle, even though I'm not asking him to. Oh, no, my rein is kind of by accident. So we'll put 2 legs on him. He just goes in a longer circle. It's a nice circle, good bend. And I'll just... So he's just trying something else. It's kind of funny. So what I did there is when he was on the side of the circle that's closest to the barn, I just kind of bumped him a couple times with my legs. It's the same concept. Wherever where he wants to be, like say it's an open gate, and he wants to go out that open gate while you're riding in the arena, is every time he passes that gate and he kind of fades toward it, make him speed up. Just put a little pressure on him. Come on, let's work harder. And then when he's not by the gate, not work harder. And so since he was just kind of like stuck in some kind of, oh, maybe I should circle, it's a pretty honest little mistake, I think. Then when he was on the circle side towards his destination that he had the addiction to, I just pushed with my legs. You didn't see me kick them. You didn't see me have a, fight with them. I just put more pressure on them. But we have done this many times in the arena already. So, we're doing all our homework. We're doing all our homework in the arena. So when we come out here on the trails or the road, we're just not teaching this all of a sudden and the horse doesn't understand and maybe we're going to have some bad moments and be in a little bit of a dangerous situation. So same thing when you're lunging. Let's say a horse is tied up to the wall when I'm lunging, let him, of course they want to drag over there at first. It's just all horses do that. And every time he passes the horse lunging, he has to speed up. And so pretty soon he learns when he passes the other horse, he speeds up, he starts fading away from that horse instead of towards it. Same thing with an out gate, or vice versa, something that he's scared of. So when he speeds up going around it, I'll ignore that, but when he gets on the far side away from it, I'll put some pressure there on the far side and release my legs when he's closer to it. And pretty soon he starts slowing down when he's close to the scary thing. So all the same things work. A little bit of pressure where they want to be, no pressure where you want to be. And, done consistently, it works for about everything. Nice job, buddy. So I'll check back in. At some point, I'm just going to turn them around on purpose and let's go back because there's a little bit. It's not bad. I mean, no one else would even notice it, but I can feel like there's just that little bit and I need to take them home at least one time, work them, and then come back out here just to solidify this thing. So I'll check back in. Okay, so we turned around on purpose. He really didn't do much, but like I said, he was just kind of thinking about it still. And I really don't even want them to have that thought still in their head. I want them to think, let's go somewhere, let's be happy about it, versus, I wish I could go back to the barn. Again, I don't blame them, but they can get dangerous if they start really thinking, let's go to the barn and forget what this person says. So funny enough, he's decided to stop here at the sign. The barn's right there in the background. And he's like, I don't want to go, which truthfully is awesome. But, we still kind of come back to the barn, right? So I'm going to exaggerate to teach. We're going to go back anyway, and we're going to work on him. Since he really didn't try hard, I may not do this for a long time. I'm still going to make it picky. But, if he was really anxious, then I'm either going to get off and lunge him, stage 2 Clinton style lunging, and move his feet and get him breathing hard and get his brain back in gear. That's really what that's for, more than breathing hard. It's the constant change in the direction gets him to focus on you versus the let's go. And I'm worked up, constant lunging like you do a lot of show horses. Doesn't really do anything besides get them fitter, but it doesn't get their brain activated. So the change directions does. But, so if he was getting very anxious, I'm going to make sure he canters somehow and does some real work. If he's not, but it's just there, then like I said, if my horse is trained, I have choices. So I'm going to come right here, and we're going to say, for me, he was in the driveway. So on a really anxious horse, I'm going to wait till we're in my indoor arena where it's safe footing. But on him, he wasn't being bad, so we're just going to side pass. And this way here, especially, he just always starts a little bit stiff. See how his head's spit up when he side passes. So that's okay. That's the side we need to work on, which is mine. So that's perfect because whatever's harder for him then makes it a little bit not so pleasant, right? If it's something really easy for him, then he doesn't really care. So keep that in mind, that do the thing that you know that he knows. Don't try to do something brand new and have some kind of fight on your hands and but make it something that's just he needs a lot of work on. Whatever lead he doesn't want to canter on, maybe whatever diagonal he doesn't want to trot on so much or bend so much. Those sort of things. So we're just side passing. Now he's slowing down because he doesn't want to go to the barn, I think, but it doesn't matter. If I ask, my leg comes on you. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to go the other way. So we did the whole fence line. And, you know, side passing is a really good suppling exercise because it gets them, see much better he gets this way. It bends that whole body, and for them to do it, they need to relax through the back and be able to cross over. So it's a great exercise if they know how to do it. Don't introduce the side pass here of all days, especially if there's any anxiety. You don't want to do collection type work if they're anxious, and this is a type of collection because he's having to engage so much. That was better this way now. Good. Press forward there. No, you gotta stay here. It's funny he slows down as he gets closer to the end here, because a lot of times right through here we'll go through the arena right there. So again, I mean, you got to use what you got. Some people don't have arenas, so you may just have to use your driveway and side pass, and then you could back a little bit. All this assuming your horse has any good cues for this, you know. Doesn't have to be perfect at it, but you don't need to be starting some kind of war. And backing on an anxious horse can start a whole lot of wars. You could work on your neck rein, pivots. And see how I'm not giving me switch in between? Now we're going to side pass this way. And I'm going to side pass this way until we get to the end of my driveway, which is down there a decent bit. I'm going to, you know, like I said, this isn't just nice work, but it's not aggressive either. I'm not mad. We're not trying to beat this horse into submission. We're just trying to show them that choice A and choice B. But I'm going to go all the way to the end of this driveway, and then I'm going to release my reins totally as loose as I can get them, and then we're going to walk on again. And how do you know if this works well enough? Because he doesn't try it again. If he keeps trying it again, that means your work wasn't long enough or hard enough. Now, if it's the first time, expect this to take at least 5 repetitions. And that's for me, and my horses already know the concept through the lunging that we do, and the move on better, and the work we do on the trails. We always bring them back to the trails and let them work, and then go back to the trails and rest. So they already have the concept. So it's not a miracle working the first day, but you're going to keep going that first day until he doesn't want to come home. So whatever that takes. So I always plan on at least 2 hours for something like this. And again, I would rather them make the mistakes, so then 2 hours today might be 30 minutes today, you know, and so on. So we're almost to the road. I'm going to keep side passing. Oh my, keep side passing. Good. And now I'm going to drop my reins and say, where would you like to go, baby? And you know, again, at first, these horses are going to immediately go, okay, now I need to go home. And that's the part is so frustrating. But remember, if they don't make mistakes, they don't learn. So you just smile, because it does help your attitude, and you go on and you go back and do it again. And that just is a sign that you need to make him work a little bit harder and repeat it more. You can do less and repeat it even more times, but I have found that you're just a little bit better if you just do it a little bit harder the next time than 10 times. And maybe that just comes down to the patience thing. If you got a lot of patience and you got, let's say instead of 2 hours, you got 3 hours, it probably would still work. Honestly, it'd probably still work. I just have other horses to ride, so 2 hours is pretty good for me, I think, as let's really, I'd rather get it done quicker and more solid in their mind. But I'm used to riding horses all day and cantering, so I understand some people are like, I really just don't want to work that hard. So that's fine. Just plan on more time and go there and just kind of nag at them while they're doing whatever you want, backing, side passing, trotting circles, figure eights, change the directions, you know, all stuff that you would do in the arena that's kind of picking them a little bit and asking for more perfection, let's say. then come back out there, work, and do it again. So this method is a combination between Warwick Schiller's and Clinton Anderson's, and I think it's just something that's a little more doable for most people than Clinton. He really wants you to work the horse hard, and I really like the idea. It really, really does work. I've seen this work on every single horse I've ever tried it, but I realize not everyone has the capabilities of working that hard, and so I found that once your horse has done this through the lunging and the other ways, that this still works because they understand the concept. So that saves you a lot of effort. Oops. All right, so we'll check back in a little bit. And honestly, on him, I'm going to just wait and see if there's a hesitation somewhere, and then we'll come back, or we may go, you increase by what the horse tells you can. So usually it's 50 foot each time, but since he's been down this road before, it can go two ways. Either he'll want to come back even quicker because he knows where home is, or he's like, I'm comfortable on this road, so I'll just go ahead and go. So I'm going to go at least probably a mile and then turn around and come back home this time, if he says that's something we can do. If he says he's not comfortable with that, we're going to be happy enough to do it again, and I'll check back in. Okay, so we've reached 3/4 of the way I want to go, and I thought, well, let's just stop here, see where his interests may lie. And there are over here some cows somewhere in the distance there, so he saw those. And he's the type of horse that notices things, and I consider that a good thing. As long as they don't overreact, I want them to see what's around versus be so oblivious to it that by the time they do see it, they just go from asleep to, oh my gosh, we're going to die. And sometimes that's what it feels like when you're on their back. So the fact that they're looking, I just stay calm and just say, oh, that's cool. And now I looked away, I give him an opportunity to look, and he saw, okay, it's just cows over there somewhere. You can just see the tops of them. We're cool. And so now I'm going to, oh, he's thinking about turning around. What would be very permissible to me here is if he wanted to stop and eat some grass. And I would let that be a very positive opportunity to say, oh, we went about a mile down the road and we ate grass. That isn't so bad, is it? Sure beats that arena where you have to constantly be doing something to please these crazy humans. But walking down the road and eating grass, yeah, I'll choose that. So, if it gets to be a pain and he's ripping the reins out of your hands, we'll have to address that problem. But I don't mind a horse eating because that helps their digestive and helps them chew, which releases their brain serotonin and just gets them happy. So for me, that's not a bad thing. But again, that's you have to set your limits on how much you allow it. So after we sit here, now we're about a mile from home. And so if he turns around, I have two options. I could let him go for a few feet and then put him to work if I feel like my environment is safe. And again, it doesn't have to be, you're not going to run around on this blacktop, but you can make him side pass him back and just kind of do something, then point him back the way you want to go and release the reins. Or if I feel like, he's just got a strong pull, and you'll feel that anxiety, then I'm just going to go ahead and go back to the barn. And even though we're a mile away, I'm going to let him go back to the barn and we'll do it again. So that's why I say it takes a little bit of time to do this. But if you do, you'll be rewarded. So, the head's looking back towards the barn, looking back towards me talking. And so I'm going to squeeze two legs. And it's pretty obvious he's thinking about maybe turning around, right? So I'm going to give him a few feet. Make sure he commits to it, right? Oh, yeah, just almost slightly faster movement, right? I mean, not bad. But there was just a one step of anxiety, like, oh, we're going to the barn. And then he rethought it. So now I'll just go ahead and we'll just do some circles. When they neck rein, because right here, and we're just going to work on our pivot now. Oh, it's glad you come over here, dude. Again, your horse has to have some skills to do this, but you could back him, you could do this, but if he's anxious, don't do this stuff because, on the blacktop, you could get hurt real quick. Now, I could go right over that field there. Most people aren't going to mind if you just go over there in their field and go someplace where it's safe. So Or you could do the circle thing, assuming your horse has, and every time it hits this side, I'm going to do my circle, and I'll put a little pressure on it. I'll do a circle again, and I'll wait till home's that way. So now my two legs are bumping them very lightly. I mean, there's energy in them, but it's not saying trot. So it's just the way I hit them with my legs that they know. And then see if he wants to walk forward. So that's what you'll do if you're so far from home that you kind of don't want to go all the way back to work on this. Going all the way back is the best thing. But sometimes, you just, like if you're on a trail ride, you're just too far away to actually address this. And by the time he got to the barn, he maybe had a full gallop or something. So once you've done the 50-foot trail ride, or in this case, 1 mile trail ride, then, and they understand the concept, then you can move on to what I just did there, is let them turn around, let them get 10, 12 feet into it, and then put them to work again. And that will still work because they're like, oh, wait, same idea. I went this way, I had to work again. And that's why I like this whole thing, is because it starts becoming the horse's idea versus you dominating the horse's thoughts. And I kind of liked it because he actually did have one little minor step of, oh, we're going to the barn. And then he said, wait, that's not a good thing. So it was his decision to just kind of slow down. And it was also his decision to go on forward. I put pressure on him on the other side, but I never said, no, you go this way, you bad horse. So I like that he willingly, without now looking around and looking behind him, said, no, I'd rather go this way. Again, this is why we do all this stuff, is because now we give you tools to work on. No horse is going to stay good forever. I wish it was the case, but if that was true, then the horse trainers wouldn't have a job. They are constant maintenance. And a lot of times because of us. We ride them, we get their tack off, we put them up and give them food. So you come home faster from work more than likely and drive home just a tad faster. So same with the horse. So if we ride 3 times a week, and do that for 2 months and get off them and let them rest every single time, then why wouldn't he? That becomes a habit, doesn't it? So instead, maybe once a month, I might just check out and see if this is a problem and drop my reins and let's see. So it depends on the horse how often you have to do it, but be aware of it. When you start seeing signs of it, just pick a day. That's what you're doing today. Fix it and be done. Hear a car coming. I thought it was behind us, but I think it's in front of us. It's so windy today, who the heck knows? Nope, it turned off. So we had this plastic bag fly up in the air and then got caught on this fence here. But this is why we desensitize with tarps and plastic bags, because a lot of horses, looking at the cows over there, would have melted down over that thing. I mean, you know how the wind catches something. And so 2 pieces of plastic here, and he's not even looking at that. He's looking over at those cows to see if they're horses or not and whether he can play with them. Yeah, big sigh, doesn't even care. And I'd go over there and touch it, but it's a barbed wire fence and it's a little ditch there, so I don't want to actually stumble into it or something and get him hurt. But this is real life. Real life has plastic bags. We'll check back in. Okay, so I was going to turn around here, but I think I'll go on just a bit more. But there's a little grassy spot, and there's some cows kind of close. And since he'd been kind of looking at those, like, what are those things in the distance, I thought this would be a good time to just make it a positive thing. Here, we're next to the cows, and we're eating grass. And so that's a wonderful thing to do. If your horse is chewing, he's generally not too fearful. He could have a little anxiety, but chewing is kind of like you know, sometimes you get a little anxiety and you eat something and you feel a little better. Same for a horse. So if he's losing his mind, he's not going to be eating grass, I guarantee you. And the cows are like, what is that? That's a spotted, long-legged cow. There we go, and he's like, look, they're eating grass, I'm eating grass. We're all happy. So again, I'm a big believer in the grass eating, just because I think it helps them mentally and it gives them, you know, look, all we did, especially my horses don't get a lot of pasture when they're in training. So we went for a mile or two and we got to eat grass. That's a pretty darn good day, especially when there's nice green, or as green as we're getting here in almost December in Kentucky. So he's happy to have it, aren't you, baby? Yeah. Okay, so we went past the spot that we turned around yesterday, probably by, oh, I don't know, quarter mile, very far. And see, like when that car turned around, or like I said, now he's thinking about turning around. So I'm going to let him do it. He's like, the car's going home. You passed up the spot where we turned around yesterday. And so now we'll just go ahead and practice some of our same things. Hands on the reins. And we're just going to say, okay, more pressure on this side. See how I faded that way a little bit. Now, perfect world, you're going to go all the way back home. Since we're a little bit of a distance, then I'm just going to show you another option because everybody always asks, well, what if? Here's your, but get the at-home stuff good first. So if you're really having to fight this and it doesn't work, it means you haven't done enough at home. So that's some, side pass some. Should be facing towards home though. Side pass, you really should be facing the way that he wants to go because that way he can associate the work with that way. Good, nice side pass. Let's perfect this side pass. It'll get stuck this way. Good, now let's turn around. Make a good turn around. Let our reins loose and see what happens. That wasn't very much, so it's not probably going to be enough. I'm a little bit on a hill. I didn't realize that till I started, so yes, he has borium on his feet, but I don't want him to fall down or something, so I'll give him the opportunity to go to a little bit further where I have at least level, you know. So there's this is what this can build into. It seems like a lot at first. Oh, now I got a car behind us. But it's really not as much as you think because the good foundation allows you now to use a little bit of that tool while away from home. Good job, buddy. And in a minute here, since we, like I said, we increase it each time. So that means, what did I say? I went about a quarter mile. I'm going to go, in this case, since he did kind of want to turn around, I'm going to go just a little bit further, another couple hundred feet. I'm very bad at mileage and distance. And until I feel like he's going forward willingly, got his ears perked forward, like, yes, let's do this. And then I'll choose to turn around. Because remember, every time we get to go back home, there was a hesitation. Every time we go back home, then I get the opportunity to teach this. So I need opportunity to teach this. I don't need perfect world because everybody learns by making mistakes, not by making things perfect. Okay, so we'll go right here by the school bus. And we're going to stop. The difference is here, I'm going to turn around. So he has a tendency to want to turn to the right. So I'll turn to the left. And now we're going to see. Make the reins really loose. Right around my horn a little bit. I like these reins for that reason. And maybe a slight bit faster. And like I said, as long as it doesn't get bad, I'm going to allow that to happen because I need him to make those mistakes and say, okay, now we're going back to the barn, but guess what you're going to have when you get there? There's just a rare horse in the world that doesn't want to go faster back towards the barn or the horse trailer. But people complain about it a lot and say, well, I don't like this. Well, look at your habits, and then here's how you're going to fix it. And then you're going to just have to maintain this every once in a while. Depends on the horse how often, but if you do a thorough enough job, plan on a week of just this maybe, then you may have to just do it once every few months, something like that. The other thing we do is we never just put a horse directly up if we can help it. We'll tie him to the patient's pole. Oh, love that. Good job, buddy. He wants to eat grass to go home. I'll allow that. You're okay. He about fell into, there's like a big ridge on this road. And so when he tried to eat grass, he kind of fell off the little ledge and said, oh, wait a minute. And it jerked the reins by accident. No, you're okay. You can eat. But I think he wanted to eat. Now, he may have wanted to turn around and go back the other way. And if he did, I would actually let him. And since we're all trying to exercise a little bit more, I'll probably walk home. I'll get off him, dismount here, and walk him in. And yeah, it's a good distance, but I need the exercise. I'm stiff all over, and so that would be good for me. And so there's another thing you can do is don't always ride all the way back to the barn. Get off a distance from the barn. And for me, when I ride a long way, it feels good just to walk a bit. And by the time I get back to the truck and have to sit still for a while, then my body's not all tight. Them cows sure are making lots of noise, aren't they, buddy? So I'm gonna give him an opportunity here. I thought he wanted to eat grass. I think he did, but I accidentally jumped his reins. Not hard or anything, but enough that he thought it meant don't do that. And I'm oh, yes. So, love it. If he would rather eat grass and go home, what a nice problem. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna put two legs on him. And let's see what happens again. So if he had turned around, I would have gotten off. He didn't. He isn't trying to walk fast. He just said, I just need a better place to eat grass. That's a smart horse there. Now look, these people probably don't want you in their yard. They just built this house. So you can go just the edge of it. Okay, but not up to their porch or anything. But the grass is good. They just sowed it. I agree. Awesome. So isn't this better? He knows that home is work. And so he's like, can't we just eat some more grass? And yes, eventually you're going to have to say, no, go. And you're going to have to go home. And you're going to ride all the way home. But we're setting up good habits is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to allow him to figure things out for his own versus always having to be micromanaging our horse. So we'll give him another minute and then we'll move on and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to put him back on the road. He had some grass for a while. These cows are over here just moving. I think I'm supposed to feed him. So he's moved over to them, which I love. He's figured out that when he goes close to cows, he gets to eat grass. So whatever you find that they're a little bit nervous about, it's a great opportunity just to give them, let them eat if they will. And he's like, I like that they're scared of me too. Do you find you some new friends? So that works really well too. Obviously, he's not too scared of them, but when he first saw him, a couple days ago, these cows just really, they wouldn't move and everybody was in a stare down. And if they had moved, he'd figured it out. But it was like, what is that? Is it trying to get me? And so I let him eat some grass next to it. And he was like, oh, cool. And then I think once they figured out that he ate grass, they were cool too. But that just is another way to just kind of help him be positive with experiences, let him eat grass. Like, yeah, it's not positive for me though. You were mooing, I come over. Okay, child. He's like, I'm not going to eat grass. So he wasn't even eating grass much. He just wanted to see him. And it was funny because they run up to the fence like they were excited to see the horse. I think they get fed a lot. Okay, good child. All right, so, he thought about going back the other way. Oh, no, he thought about going to these cows. No, sorry. We've socialized for a little bit. And, you will create other magnets. Of course you will. Horses are constantly developing magnets, but this isn't a bad one. So the fact that he wants to go see a cow or check somebody's mail, come on, we have to work, or at least have to, migrate. I'd rather have that than trying to go open up the house and try to go see a cow than trying to get excited or worried about his surroundings. So, as a lot of people can attest, my horses are always into everything, and I do encourage it. I'd much rather have a horse curious than fearful. So, you notice, once he got away from the mailbox, I dropped the rein. Footfall pattern is nice and even. There's no wild head up, anxiety in the steps kind of deal. He's looking over here to go eat grass. We got to eat grass by that pile of tires the other day. And, but there's no real fact. He's actually slowing down. So if he continues on this slow down path, I'm going to go ahead and get off of him. But in this case, since he did go, and, again, you got to kind of just roll with the situation. If he turned around and went back, away from home, I would have gotten off him. But in this case, he willingly went forward, not with anxiety, but he did say, okay, let's go home. I'm going to wait till we get past the corner because we'll go on this road here and then we hit the corner towards home. Right through there is usually when you'll start getting that little anxiety. So a little bit of a faster step. So I'm going to test, see if that creates any draw towards home. If it doesn't, I'm going to get off. So we'll check back in. Okay, another thing I want to talk about is I love a horse that has his ears pricked forward, wanting to go down the trail. But there are some horses that get so fixated on going forward that they never check back in with you. So that's important too. So for me, I like to make a cue to kind of make sure they can check back in and make sure that they know I'm here and that they're not tuning me out, because I am the leader. So I need to be the one that makes the decisions. And so what I'll do is I'm going to pick up this rein just ever so slightly. Long rein. And I'm waiting for that ear to poke back towards me. See how it didn't there? Because there, then it finally did. So I had to turn his head quite a bit. I want to be able to just pick up on it. But, going back towards home, things could be more interesting. There's winds blowing a lot. So it's even more important on those days. I'm going to try it again on this side. There we go. All I need is that little check-in. That's another little cool trick that I learned, and it does make a lot of sense because it just gives them another way to check back in. There. You don't even care. You're not even asking really to turn his head. You're just asking to say, hey, what about me? Good. And it could be as simple as touching them, and, whatever you want to make the cue. Generally, I'll go ahead and illustrate that. So let's say that I pick up on this side and I don't get the ear. Then I'm going to go ahead and just turn all the way around and ask him to do something. Because all you're really doing is saying, get ready. And that's where the check-in comes in, because he has to get ready. So if he didn't ever give me his ear, and he is, I would wait on my circle till he gave it, and then I give him his head back. So you're kind of like saying, hey, check back in with me. And if he doesn't, you're saying, oh, you can't hear me. Okay, let me help you. So we got right about here, which is where the corner is, and he started walking a little bit faster. Not trying to throw a fit or anything like that. I had the reins loose, never touched them. Remember, I wanted to make a mistake. And okay, there's corner, and I know when we hit the corner, we're going to go home. I'm like, that's cool, he's a kid. So let him go on, turns a corner, picks up another little tick, still at a walk. But there's some energy, there's a little bit of power walk. And I didn't have my camera on. I've got a low battery, and so he picks up a little more of a tick, and then he slowed down. Like he got about 100 feet. I said, okay, here's the point. I'm going to let him go all the way back to the barn, and I'm going to, since he isn't trying to run or anything, but he is power walking, I'm going to let him go back to the barn, and I'm going to work there, right? Which was my goal. Well, he got to this other set of cows, and he slowed down and stopped. He was like, this is a good place to stop, because I think he finally realized, oh, shoot, we are getting closer to the barn, but that is actually not what I want. Or maybe he thought the cows were rest. Doesn't matter. So at that point, I said, well, probably he's going to walk slow back to the barn. So I need to take advantage of that situation. And so I just did all my side passing right there at those cows. So he's going down this hill here, and he's going to walk a little faster. And we'll do the same thing. So it goes back to, maybe I can't get all the way home because it's just too far away. Then I can still do my exercises. And this horse has a lot of buttons, so side passing is hard, right? So we side passed and back some circles, and then he was like, I'd rather go this way. So even though we weren't home, the same concept worked, because he has done this at home. So keep that in mind. And you're not always in that situation, but you're almost always a place where you can side pass him back. Maybe in a perfect world I could even canter around and stuff there, but it's pretty slick, and I want to mar somebody's field up. So instead, my horse has buttons, and the more he has to use his muscles, it's going to work hard. When they don't have skills, you almost always have to go to some kind of cardio, and so trotting, circles, changing direction, stuff like that. So it's a little harder on you, to be honest. But you do what you got to do, especially the first couple of days, so you don't have to do it hard again. And but so that was kind of cool to see. I wish I'd had the camera on, What I really wish is I had like a little drone or something like that just to follow us the whole way so you could see from the side view. But, right through here, he was really power walking. And right where that red barn is in front of us, here's regular. I've got it on the far back so you guys can see the horse too. But right when he got to where those cows are in front of us, he said, I'm going to stop here. So it was either, oh, I really don't want to go back to the barn, or maybe if I stop here, she'll get off me and walk back to the barn. Doesn't really matter. The fix is the same. And so he's actually going slower and slower. And so I'll check back in when we get a little closer to this, and either more than likely he's going to slow down until we pass that spot, and maybe he's going to go faster again, saying, okay, we didn't have a side pass here, and now we're going towards home. And if he does, I'll keep the camera on while we side pass just so you can kind of see. So, we weren't very far from the corner. It's right back there. So it worked out for me to just say, let's just do this right here, since he's a decent amount from home, but pretty close to the corner. Let's side pass and do our work right here by this cow place. Then head back, and I trotted and actually cantered a little bit just to kind of get there faster. And went back there, rested for a second, then come back, and he said, wait, same thing, just different spot. It's kind of cool when it works. It's frustrating at first because you don't think it's going to work, but it always does. If you just do it long enough, it always works. So we'll just check back in and see what happens here. So we're right here by the cows where he wanted to stop last time. And he's slowing down just a tick more. He never did really speed up, but got no hands on the reins, just waiting to see. Now, if he tries to stop here, since he didn't speed up coming to this spot, I'm not going to side pass and stuff because he didn't show, maybe he wants to stop here, but he didn't have anxiety to get here. Didn't have a power walk to get here. So in this case, if he tries to stop, I'll just put two legs on and say, please go forward. And let's see what happens after I pass this, because that may be where he speeds up again, because oh, wait, the cows weren't the destination. Maybe it's home again. And again, you can't blame these horses for doing this, but it can become such a hard thing to handle that we've got to practice this stuff so we have some tools to use whenever it does arise. And to me, there's nothing worse than a horse that gets to pee often and half cantering in place to go home, because usually there's a buck in or a rear up or a who knows what, so for me, it's a very unpleasant thing to happen. And one thing we didn't really bring up is, instead of just doing the two reins and hold them, because it just doesn't work, is circles. It's destination of going forward addiction is what that is. And so if you can get it done, lots of circles. And I might do 5 circles left, 5 circles right, 5 circles left, 5 circles right. And I'm going to do it until the head and neck drop. He licks his lips. And that's just, if he's still doing the circle kind of crazy and fast and fading out of the corner, that's not going to, you did it, but you quit too soon. You're going to keep doing it until he figures out, look, we're not going forward anymore. We're just doing this exercise. So I'll get him until he finally relaxes. First time may take quite a few minutes. Let him go forward. As soon as he picks up his pace and has anxiety again, I can go forward and do some more circles. That again is one of our things that we do because, we're going on a 10-mile trail ride today. We ain't got time to do anything besides go forward, right? Well, why wouldn't they get addicted to going forward too? So that's every time you turn their direction and stop them from going forward by turning around and asking them to do something, you took away for a second, took the mind off of that for a second. And so I'll let the reins really loose. Power walk, make them make the mistake. Make them get 10 to 20 steps into that mistake. Then circle, 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 circle. Keep changing directions till he's calm. Let the reins loose again. And he may power walk immediately. Doesn't matter. Keep doing that. And pretty soon he's like, I'm not getting anywhere. All I'm doing is all these stupid circles. And he'll get out of that. Does it take a little effort? Yeah, it does. So you need to look at why he's doing that. Is it because he wants to go back to the trailer? Is it because he wants to go back to the barn and his buddies? If that's the case, you're better off fixing that first
If it's just gotten to be a habit, like there's some horses that are encouraged to walk really, really fast on the trails all the time, or maybe it's just anxiety from being out on the trails, then that's where you can do that relaxation exercise by bending around a circle and getting him to think again and relax and realize that it isn't just meeting the destination, and that way we get this over and done with. It's, oh, this is just another little training exercise that happens to be in a different environment. Great thing about circles is you're going forward and around and you're bending his head, like a quarter away to your knee, maybe halfway on some horses. And it gets them, if they were to throw a fit, they're already being softened a bit. You could put a leg back there, disengage the hindquarter, and stop them from running away with you, rearing up, bucking, or anything like that. 2 reins allows them to rear up and buck if they really want to use that against you. So circles, just using 1 rein and just ask them to bend around your leg. Look up the bending exercise on either Warwick or Clinton. Same kind of concept with both. I think most trainers use something like that as a warm-up. Go round, 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 switch directions, round, 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 and teach them to relax. This puts you in a position to still be in control and not get hurt. That if the very worst thing happens, you can disengage that hindquarter while his head's turned and get off him. I'd rather get off him than have a blow up. 2 reins, which is what so many of us go to, creates anxiety for the horse, gives you something to hold on to. You think you feel better, but the whole time you're tight and your muscles are tight, your abs are tight, your jaw is tight, and the same thing for the horse. So get used to doing those bending exercises so you can use them here if needed. So we're coming down the home stretch. The barn is just down this big hill. And he's kind of went both ways. He's kind of walked a little bit faster for 5 or 6 steps. And now you see he starts slowing down. So he's torn. I know the barn's close. Wait a minute. The barn's close. Oh, shoot. So we're going to have 2 options here. If he was to slow down and say, I really don't want to go, and maybe stop and try to eat grass or even turn around, then I would go a little bit and then get off and walk back. If he continues on, even if it's slow, I'm not going to make a big deal of it. I'm not going to side pass the driveway. I'm just going to go to the arena and I'm going to do my normal exercise, because that's a really good way to keep this from happening, is do your trail ride at home, do your arena work at home, or your road ride at home, and then maybe just do your regular arena work. Work on your side passing through some obstacles. Work on a little bit of cantering, the flower pattern or a clover leaf or something like that. And you don't have to make it punishment. You don't have to run their feet off, but just make it a normal work, because any kind of arena work is still a lot more nitpicky than your trail ride work. So that will give them, it's kind of like a maintenance thing, is every time you come back, even if you just worked on your lunging and your backing skills and you're moving the hindquarters and you're side passing on the ground, and then you time up for an hour, that stuff will still work. He stopped like, I really don't want to go home. And here's the odd thing about me. If I pushed 2 legs on him and he turned around the other way, I would consider this a huge success. And, some people say, well, yeah, but you eventually want to go home. Yes, I do. But I realize that out of every 30 rides, you might do this once. So that means 29 rides, you just let him go home and took the saddle off and made it such a positive thing that you're creating bad habits. So the fact that he would think, oh, let's go the other way, is just kind of back to that exaggerate to teach thing. Oh, and I think we're getting ready to get rained on. So let's see what happens. He's got his ears fixated. So I would tell you 80% chance that he's going to still go home. But who knows, because he's got, now that I said that, the ears are going everywhere, aren't they? Yes, they are. Because decisions, man, decisions. He goes, well, when you let me make the decisions, it should be obvious. I want to go home. Which way, huh? So I would like for him to turn his head still first, or straight, so I don't cheat the system here. Now he's turned his head this, so there he licked his lips. So he's definitely thought something through. When they lick their lips, old John Lyons saying he's digesting a thought, I feel like that's just so appropriate. So considering it, so I'm going to lightly apply 2 legs. He considered both, didn't he? He's like, oh, shoot, what should I do? Now you could, since that was such a really minor response, you could very well say, go ahead and encourage the turnaround and go the other way and get off. I'm not saying you can't. Because it was pretty obvious he wasn't thinking home, was he? Since it's raining, I don't know if I really want to walk in the rain, because it's going to get hard from what I understand. I'm going to let him go back home and work in my indoor arena if I can get this done, because it's getting harder faster. I need my umbrella. But if I have to get a little wet to help this horse, then I will. So he's getting slower, looking behind him like he wouldn't mind turning around. And this is the sacrifice we have to make. I'm going to have to get wet, it looks like. Now, if he goes down my driveway here, this is the driveway to the house, we'll do some side packs or something, because I don't really want him there. There's other horses here. No? Okay, so let's go ahead and go forward. So he said, I thought about it, but that's not where I want to go anyway. So basically, what is he doing? He's looking for some other option besides going to the barn. So, that's okay. That's what I want. I want him to at least thinking, do I have to go? And since he stopped again, you know what? I would like him to turn around, but I'm going to go ahead and get off because he's being awful good. I mean, that's pretty darn good. The barn is, see where that yellow sign is up there? That's where you entrance to the barn. So he's like, I really rather not. So since I'm going to work on this for all week, and this is day 2 for this, and this on the road, I should not be so greedy, and I'm going to stop and allow you get off from here. And when you dismount, it's the ultimate release of pressure. So why not have that? And that way I can build on that tomorrow. And before I could get it done, he turned around and went the other way. So, but now I'm going to say, okay. And I'm going to go ahead and get off because we walked quite a few feet. And he's like, what are we doing, Jenny? And that'd be a good place to get off.